A warm welcome to our viewers here in Nigeria and around the world. I'm Amarachi Ubani. Thanks for joining us this half hour on The World Today. Here's what's ahead. At least 20 people killed following a 6.3 magnitude earthquake in Afghanistan. U.S. President Donald Trump reiterates his threat of military action in Nigeria, accusing the state of killing what he says are a record number of Christians. Plus, the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs discusses the impact of China's investment in Africa. Let's begin The World Today. At least 20 people have been killed after a 6.3 magnitude earthquake struck in northern Afghanistan. More than 500 other people were injured. The quake's epicenter was located 22 kilometers west-southwest of the town of Kulum and it struck at 12:59 a.m. at a depth of 28 kilometers. The impact of the quake was felt in the nearby province of Badakhshan, where it damaged or destroyed 800 houses in one village. Spokesperson for the Afghanistan National Disaster Management Authority, Yusuf Hamad, says most of the injured suffered minor wounds and were discharged after treatment. The Ministry of Defense in Afghanistan has announced that rescue and emergency teams reached quake-affected areas in Balkh and Samangan in Kabul. The two towns suffered the most damage and were transporting the injured and assisting others. Meanwhile, the main suspect in a knife attack on a train in Cambridgeshire on Saturday has appeared in court today in the UK. 32-year-old Anthony Williams is charged with 11 counts of attempted murder. Police are also investigating whether he is linked to 3 other incidents, including the stabbing of a 14-year-old on Friday. Williams has also been charged with 2 counts of possession of a bladed article and 1 count of actually bodily harm in connection to an alleged assault on a police officer following the Cambridgeshire attack.
Approximately 7:42 p.m. yesterday evening, there were calls to the police service related to multiple stabbings which took place on board a train service that departed Doncaster at 6:25 p.m. and was en route to London Kingsborough Station. Officers immediately attended Huntington Station alongside paramedics, but armed police officers from Cambridgeshire Police boarded the train and arrested 2 people. Within 8 minutes of the 999 call being made, 2 men were brought into police custody, where they remain this morning. I can tell you that these are, first man, a 32-year-old male, a black British national, and a 35-year-old man, British national, Caribbean descent. They were both arrested on suspicion of attempted murder. Both were born in the United Kingdom. 10 people were taken to hospital by ambulance, and another person self-presented later that evening. While 9 were initially believed to have life-threatening injuries, following assessment and treatment, 4, thankful to say, being discharged. However, 2 patients remain in a life-threatening condition. British Transport Police declared a major incident yesterday. Counter-terrorism policing were initially supporting our investigation. However, at this stage, there is nothing to suggest this is a terrorist incident.
U.S. President Donald Trump has repeated his threat of a military operation in Nigeria over killings of Christians after the Nigerian presidency suggested a meeting to resolve the issue. Asked by reporters aboard Air Force One if he was considering U.S. troops on the ground in Nigeria or airstrikes, President Trump replied, "Could be. I mean, a lot of things. I envisage a lot of things. They're killing the Christians and killing them in very large numbers." In an explosive post on his Truth Social platform on Saturday, President Trump said that he had asked the Pentagon to map out a possible plan of attack on Nigeria, a day after warning that Christianity was facing an existential threat in Africa, in Africa's most populous country.
A lot of things I envisage, a lot of things. They're killing record numbers of Christians in Nigeria. And they have other countries very bad also. You know that part of the world very bad. They're killing the Christians and killing them in very large numbers. We're not going to allow that to happen.
Meanwhile, the U.S. president has played down the possibility of a U.S. war with Venezuela, but suggested Nicolas Maduro's days as the country's president were numbered. Asked if the U.S. was going to war against Venezuela, President Trump told CBS 60 Minutes, "I doubt it. I don't think so, but they've been treating us very badly." For 2 months, the U.S. military has been building up a force of warships, fighter jets, bombers, marines, drones, and spy planes in the Caribbean Sea. As the largest deployment for decades, the U.S. continues to launch strikes on alleged drug smuggling boats in the Caribbean. The Trump administration says these strikes are necessary to stem the flow of drugs into the United States. Back here in Lagos, the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs has held a dialogue on China-Africa cooperation under the BRI, the Belt Road Initiative, and FOCAC. The dialogue was had among research fellows at the Institute who presented papers addressing the above topic. The dialogue was had at the Louis Mbanefo Rotunda at the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs in Lagos.
In researching and presenting this information,
research fellows dug deep to present papers focused on mutual beneficial and non-colonial partnership, the engine of the global multipolarity and governance forum, economic transformation and development impact, building a parallel economic ecosystem, and the commitment to green development between China and Africa. The directors of research and studies at the Institute tackled the issue of China and global governance in Africa and China's private sector engagement.
China's involvement in groups like the UN, the World Trade Organization, BRICS, and the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank shows that China is serious about what it calls reformed multilateralism. Reformed multilateralism. And the second instrument that China uses to facilitate global governance is the Belt and Road Initiative, apart from FOCAC too. So in all of these areas, Beijing promotes ideas of sovereignty, non-interference, and mutual benefits that are different from the way Western donors give aid, which in most cases come with conditions and conditionalities. But Africa's involvement is not just passive acceptance, but African governments have figured out how to use their ties with China to push for their own goals and representation and reforms, especially at the level of the United Nations Security Councils and other international financial institutions.
The plan of action, the last 2025, the last FOCAC, which is the Beijing Summit 2025, 3.341 says China will continue to work to strengthen the confidence of Chinese enterprises in investing in Africa and further increase investment in and technology transfer to Africa. That is what the Chinese government said. The China-Africa Development Fund, CAD Fund, will continue to play an important role in this regard. Now, Section 5.2.4 says the Chinese government will continue to encourage Chinese enterprises to invest in Africa. 5.2.7 says China supports Chinese enterprises in expanding investment in Africa's trade, supply chain, green industrial chain, modern service, medium and high-tech manufacturing, information, communication industries, energy and electricity, and digital infrastructure, and will encourage them to promote recruitment and training of local jobs.
China's deepening collaboration in renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, waste management and green technology was highlighted by research fellow and head of the International Law Unit of the Institute, Dr. Rita Agu.
China has redefined its foreign policy narrative to include green development diplomacy, positioning itself as one of the leaders in global ecological and ecological practices, and The second one is the economic and investment perspective. It has shifted from the traditional extractive projects, that's oil and mining. They have moved towards renewable energy, green industrial parks, sustainable agriculture, and eco-friendly transport systems. So you can see that China is not talking about mining anymore. They have moved past that level, and they are almost leading the world in respect of green development.
In the end, the dialogue portrayed China as a strategic partner in reshaping Africa's economic and geopolitical landscape, rather than just an investor. Amarachi Ubani, Channels Television News. We're off on a short break now on The World Today. Still ahead. Creative designs go up and down the runway at the Lagos Fashion Week. Stay with us. Welcome back. U.S. President Donald Trump's insistence on sending troops to Nigeria to quell violence against Christians has drawn lots of reactions from across the country and across the globe. President Donald Trump says he's ordered the military to prepare for action in Nigeria to tackle what he says is Islamist militant groups accusing the government of failing to protect Christians. Well, he's not said which killings he's referring to, but claims a genocide against Nigeria's Christians have been circulating in recent weeks and months in some right-wing U.S. circles. Groups monitoring violence in the country, however, say that there is no evidence to suggest that Christians are being killed more than Muslims in Nigeria, a country which is roughly divided between Christians and Muslims. Well, let's get more reactions to that now. Joining us is international relations expert, Dr. Charles Chukwunaru. He's in Alberta, Canada. Dr. Chukwunaru, thank you for joining us on the program today. And I'm sure that you, just like every other Nigerian, is quite a bit shocked at what the U.S. president is suggesting. Boots on the ground is a lot for America, even for Nigeria. And there have been a flurry of responses, many of them defiant, from the Nigerian government, especially on the part of Trump sending boots to the ground. But do you think that this is serious consideration for President Trump? Do you think it's something he really intends to do?
Well, thank you for having me, Amarachi, although the notice was so short. Yeah, I had to come in because it's a very serious issue. And going straight to your question, the answer is the U.S. will intervene. In fact, this has already gone out. Already, the U.S. has intervened already. So what we are going to witness is how the events will unfold. The U.S. president issued two tweets within a space of 24 hours, and you think it's a joke? And whether the U.S. can intervene, he had done that before. You recall in Trump's the first comment, Trump's 1.0, he went after jihadists in Iraq and Syria, waged a war. And now the U.S. government is alleging there is ISWAP in Nigeria and that they are killing Christians. And
so why not? So why not just do what the Nigerian government is suggesting, which is if you want to help, with the fight against terrorism in the country, why not give us the arms and the weaponry that we need to fight the insurgents instead of sending boots on the ground?
Yeah. Amarachi, in April 2018, the then President Buhari visited Washington. He saw Donald Trump. Donald Trump gave him Super Tucano helicopters and gave him a direct charge to stop the killing of Christians in Nigeria. 2018. What have they done between that time till now? The United Arab Emirates said they gave, in fact, it was not they said, it was even widely reported by the media, including by your media, that the Emirati government, the United Arab Emirates, released a list of terrorist sponsors in Nigeria. The government of Nigeria kept saying that they are going to do something about it up to today. What has been done? What has the Nigerian government done about it?
So
are Christians not being killed?
So let's move on. And I'm saying this because we have seen the U.S. president also threaten a country like Venezuela with military action. He has been bombing Venezuelan ships, I believe, in the Pacific, trying to get President Nicolas Maduro out of government. That hasn't worked. And recently he suggested that it's not possible. He doesn't think he will be sending boots on the ground in Venezuela. So do you think that perhaps President Trump could stand down on this threat of his, considering that Nigeria is a sovereign country? We do have security challenges. Thankfully, the government has admitted that. But the government is still saying this will be a violation of our sovereignty. It will be a violation to our troops. It will also cause more trouble on the ground, since the U.S. government cannot distinguish who's a Christian from who's a Muslim. And, even though they know where the terrorists are, this will cause more harm, more carnage than what we're even witnessing right now.
Amarachi, let's be very logical about this. When you talk about sovereignty, there is no absolute sovereignty when you consider the Genocide Convention of 1948 and the responsibility to protect, which the UN unilaterally adopted in 2005. So the responsibility under the concept of the responsibility to protect, other nations have an obligation to intervene and stop crimes against humanity, including genocide. So when the people, when I saw the response of the Nigerian government, I was wondering, do they have experts in international relations and international law? Those advising the Nigerian government, are they vast on international relations and legal regulation of conflict?
Does not want to go to war, Dr. Chukwunaro. The U.S.
really I am not talking about war here. I'm talking about intervention under the response. You talked about responsibility, sovereignty, and I'm telling you that there is no absolute sovereignty. That the concept of sovereignty flies in the face of crimes against humanity and genocide. The Nigerian government did not deny that human beings are being killed. They did not deny that Christians are being killed. They said that Muslims are also being killed. That does not vitiate the fact that human beings are being slaughtered, that the right to life in Nigeria is not being respected. I'm talking about intervention.
What response do you think the Nigerian government should have in the face of threats from Donald Trump?
I saw the response of the Nigerian government,
but what should have been their response? By the president himself.
What should have been their response? I shook my head. He's not addressing the issues. They are giving you figures.
What should have been their response instead?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They gave you figures of the Christians that have been killed. Out of about 4,476 Christians killed in the world in recent times, about 3,100 is from Nigeria alone. And you're not bringing any counter facts or figures. You are just saying, oh, Nigeria is a country that talks about religious tolerance. We're not talking about religious tolerance here. We are talking about one certain Deborah who was stoned to death, burnt alive, and the perpetrators who are ask yourself, who are the masterminds of these things? When you go to jail,
Dr. Chukwunaro, I don't think that the Nigerian government wants to escalate this tension between the countries,
No, but
Nigeria
they are
and
not
the
de-escalating.
U.S. President Bola Tinubu had tried to schedule a discussion with President Trump. I think that was eventually downgraded to a meeting with the Vice President, J.D. Vance, and now I understand that meeting is not holding. What other avenues are open to the Nigerian government to negotiate with the U.S. government or to at least address the issue?
Nigeria is not a serious country. Is there an ambassador of Nigeria to the US? But when I saw it, that hold on, let me make this point. When I saw that the federal Nigerian president was going to see the US after that, I laughed. It is impossible. The Nigerian government cannot get it. The president of a country like Nigeria cannot even if you apply to see the president of the United States, he can't get appointment in the next 6 months. The only way he can go and see the US president is only if he's summoned. Okay. The processes, the processes of getting an appointment in the White House, and you just wake up without any appointment confirmation. You declare you are going to see him. He's the vice president. Nigeria, listen, Nigeria is operating like a rudderless ship. This is not how international relations are conducted, for crying out loud.
Dr. Chukwunari, this is where we would have to leave it. Thank you so much for expressing your thoughts, your opinions, your analysis on the issue. We appreciate your coming on the program. We unfortunately are running out of time. Dr. Chukwunari, we have to drop it here. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. Thanks again.
Thank you for having me.
As we end the program, and before we drop the anchor today, let's end with something a bit more cheerful. The runway shimmering with vibrant fabrics and daring designs. This was the scene at the latest designer creations at the Lagos Fashion Week. This weekend was themed Africa's leading show for creativity and fashion. The event featured notable guests, and among the attendees was movie actor Prince Nelson, known for his bold fashion choices. Fellow actor Kiki Festus praised the innovation driving the Nigerian fashion industry. Celebrating its 15th anniversary, Lagos Fashion Week is a launchpad for African talent, giving global audiences a front row seat to the continent's creativity and innovation.
What I do basically is try putting lots of pieces of fabrics together to bring out a unique design that anybody can actually wear and feel comfortable and not feel limited to the Lagos Nigerian setting. So our Ashoke, our Ankara, our Ninel sets, all of them put together bring something right here.
I'm someone who's always very daring, the kind of clothes that I wear, the kind of colors that I put together. And this outfit was actually inspired by someone I saw on Instagram. I saw she was wearing something similar, and I was like, oh, I'd like to wear that.
Nigerian fashion is very innovative, very futuristic, and like you see, we're putting our country on the map in the fashion scene. So I'm so glad that events like this can show what we really have and what we really care about, which is fashion.
When you talk fashion, Lagos is up there in terms of culture, and it's really becoming a hub for creativity. And our fashion is unique here in Nigeria. Lagos, being a blend of different cultures and different clothings.
And that's the world today. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Uvani.